Hello and welcome to the Satluj Podcast. Modern India is still viewed as a deeply unequal society where the shocking scale of social injustice manifests itself in one of the largest wealth gaps between rich and poor in the world, where the caste system, shored up by the constitution, has ensured that the overwhelming majority of Indians are forced to live to serve the few, where a simple decision made 93 years ago has turned into a catastrophic political trap, ensuring both ethnic minorities and swathes of the Indian population are locked, seemingly forever, in submission and servitude. Well, to discuss how this ruling elite of India pulled off this extraordinary political coup and its ramifications to the present day, I'm joined today by our regular guest, Dr Singh Grewal MD. Dr Grewal, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again today.
Angus, good morning. Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki Fateh.
Indeed, a pleasure as always, Dr Grewal. Now, Dr Grewal, according to many observers in the West, India is the land of yogis, of spirituality, of Gandhi-inspired peace and harmony. And one would therefore believe that most Indians should be pretty happy with their lot living in such a country. But, as I introduced the subject, appearances are deceiving, are they not?
Yes, so let's discuss the paradox of equality in modern India. More than 75 years after India adopted its constitution, proclaiming equality, liberty, and fraternity as the cornerstone of a new republic, the promise of social justice remains unfulfilled. The policy of reservation in education, employment, and political representation was envisioned as a tool to uplift those historically oppressed by the caste system, particularly Dalits and their marginalized groups and other marginalized groups. Yet in practice, this legal framework has failed to erase the deeply ingrained social prejudice that continue to define daily interaction and opportunity. Even when Dalits reach positions of power, as judges, civil servants, or presidents of India, they often encounter subtle and overt discrimination that reminds them of their perceived place in this hierarchy. So we're going to discuss some of the recent incidents to mention why I chose this subject. The recent suicide of a senior police officer in Haryana. His wife is IA officer and granddaughter of ex-Home Minister of India, reportedly disillusioned by caste-based humiliation and other public insult directed, he committed suicide. Chief Justice of India recently was insulted. A shoe was thrown at him by an attorney. This Chief Justice is the son of another important person. His father was governor of 3 different states in India, and before that he was a member of Bombay Legislative Assembly. So even the President of India is not spared. Presidents of India, Draupadi Murmu, a Dalit woman, was excluded from the inauguration of the new parliament building, symbolize how caste privileges continue to overshadow constitutional ideas. The contradiction between legal equality and social dignity lies at the heart of India's democratic paradox. Reservations have provided access, but not acceptance, opportunity, but no respect. This, we are going to explore how the persistence of caste consciousness among both the privileged and the oppressed perpetuates resentment, undermines meritocracy, and erodes the moral foundation of India's democracy. A person cannot rise in dignity while continuously identifying as a backward. So what I am saying here is, a person cannot rise in dignity while continuously identifying as a backward. So when these people get those important jobs, they're filling a form, signing that they are backward, they are low class, and that continues to bother them all their life, and the other people keep reminding them. So acceptance of reserved constituencies has politically restricted the Dalits and other marginalized groups. While its purpose was to ensure representation, it has effectively limited their impact to a fixed number of parliamentary seats. By accepting this framework, Dalit leaders have lost the chance to compete for all seats based on their numbers and merits. So let's look at the current Lok Sabha, that's the lower house of Indian Parliament. Their total number of 543 seats. 84 seats are reserved for the skewed calls and 47 for the scheduled tribes. Therefore, the combined number is 133 seats reserved. So now, if they get all the 131 seats, you think they can change any laws in the House, which is a number of 543? No, they can't. But they have accepted this to be their fate. Communities that together they constitute about half of India's population, maybe more, depending how you count the minorities. Yet, despite the significant democratic strength, these communities remain politically fragmented and institutionalized, confined. For decades, no political party has secured more than 38% of the national votes. I'm talking mostly of some of the recent elections. Dalits and the other lower castes thus have enough numbers to potentially decide who governs India. Here is some of the statistics. 2014 election, BJP won 31% of the votes. Together with their NDA partners, they only got 38.5%. So you can see the Dalit population or our minorities are more in number. 2019, BJP got only 37.4%, and together NDA got 45.5%. Recent election, 2024, BJP got 36.3% of votes, and NDA total got 43.6%. So this arrangement, though presented as a form of inclusion, has subtly ensured continued dependency and political marginalization. The tragedy is that those who should naturally hold power are instead bound to a structure that guarantees them only a fraction of it. Until these communities recognize how this system curtails their collective agency, they will remain trapped in a cycle of symbolic representation without real authority. True empowerment will not come from demanding more favors or quotas, but from rejecting the politics of dependency and asserting full equality, though through self-confidence, unity, and leadership. So let's look at 1932 Pune Pact between Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was so smart, he had somebody else sign on his behalf. I think it was Madan Mohan Malviya. So this changed India's social and political history. Dr. Ambedkar worked hard and secured a separate electorate for the depressed classes under the British Communal Award, but relinquished it because of Gandhi's fast and growing pressure. The resulting agreement, hailed at that time as a compromise, effectively sealed the political fate of Dalits within the framework of subordination. By surrendering the right to independent political representation in exchange for a limited number of reserved seats within the Hindu electorate, Dalits were permanently bound to the very social order that oppressed them. Reconciliation quickly became containment. While Pune Pact did ensure a degree of access to education and employment, it also institutionalized dependency, granting conditional benefits in place of genuine equality. Many Dalits view Ambedkar as an advocate for their access to these benefits. However, there are instances in which such progress may inadvertently reinforce social stigma. If these privileges require one to officially acknowledge backwardness, they cannot uplift without simultaneously degrading. The core issue is, does a benefit remain valuable if it costs dignity? No, it doesn't. The true upliftment of Dalits and other marginalized communities will not come from demanding endless favors from the government, but from understanding the nature of subjugation and become active participants in their own liberation. Temporary benefits may appear to offer progress, but they come at a considerable cost, the cost of dignity, equality, and self-respect. The tragedy we witness today, the suicide of senior Dalit police officer, disillusioned by social humiliation, insult faced by Dalit Chief Justice, and the horrific violence against young people who dare to love beyond their caste boundaries. I think we discussed the case where a young man was murdered because he wanted to marry somebody higher caste than him. All point to one truth: legal protection cannot substitute for moral equality. True freedom begins not in government decrees, but in the mind. The first step toward equality is to renounce the legal and psychological subordination that binds one to the illusion of inferiority. History offers a luminous example in Guru Gobind Singh, who in 1699 transformed the so-called low class into sovereign Khalsa. He not only initiated them with Amrit, but also accepted Amrit from them, a profound act of equality that dissolved hierarchy and awakened divine selfhood. The same spirit must guide India today. When Dalits and other marginalized groups demonstrate self-assurance and reject perceptions of inferiority, society will be required to acknowledge and treat them as equal. So I'm going to quote words from Adi Granth by the third Guru. Man tu jot sarup hai apna mool pachan, man harji tere naal hai gurmati rang maan. So, simple translation. O mind, you are the embodiment of divine light. Recognize your own origin, O mind. The Lord is always with you. Through the Guru's teaching, enjoy the true delight. So what we're talking, dependency to dignity. So let's see another quote from Allama Iqbal. Allama Iqbal is one of the very respected Urdu poet and philosopher in India, as a united India, and after that in Pakistan. So his writings are mostly in Urdu, but a lot of the people will quote and understand. So he says, खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So to translate it in English, he says, raise your selfhood so high, your spirit so divine, that even before fate is written, God asks, what is your will, O mine? So I think I quoted from Guru Granth Sahib and Allama Iqbal. If the Dalit brothers want dignity and equality, first they need to raise their own conscience and in their own mind become equal or better. If they keep signing these backwardness certificates, then they are not going to gain dignity. For generations, India's so-called minority, Dalit, Adivasi, Sikh, Muslim, Christians, and other marginal people have been persuaded that they are small, powerless, and dependent on the goodwill of upper caste patron. In truth, they are most of the country, builders of its field, factories, and institutions. Yet, they remain divided, competing for a few reserved seats that can only be won with the blessing of those who will still hold the key of caste and capital. 5% or less of Brahmin society control the whole India. This is a psychological slavery that Guru Amar Das Ji warned against. Forgetting one's divine origin and innate worth, political oppression is sustained by mental submission. When we submit, we get oppressed. Freedom begins with the rediscovery of the Mool, the divine spark, collective strength, and within. So, There's a revolution waiting to be claimed. So Guru Gobind Singh's quote, Sura so pehchaniye jo lare deen ke het, recognized as a brave one who fights for the oppressed. So what the Dalits need to know, how to defeat the system which subjugates them. This is the prescription from the doctor, Dr. Grewal's prescription. And I hope they're listening and they will read my article too. Know your strength. You are not fragments. You are the majority. Recognize your numerical power, cultural vitality, and moral legitimacy. Stop allowing labels like minority to define you. Know the system. A small, organized elite control the nation through divisions and dependency. Study how caste, capital, and media maintain that control. Unite across identities, build alliances across the faith and caste, form local committees, interfaith networks, and common platform for justice, education, and rights. The very important message, again and again, contest everywhere. Do not limit your ambition to reserve constituencies. Contest everywhere. According to India's constitution, nobody can stop you. If they do, then you know what to do. Contest every seat, village, district, state, and national level, until the parliament mirrors the people it's supposed to represent. Educate and organize. Create schools, community centers, and independent media that cultivate self-respect and civil awareness. Education is a long revolution. Act with faith and strategy. Act with faith and strategy. So faith without organization is a sentiment. Organization without faith is a machinery. Combine both. Let every vote, every campaign, every voice become a prayer for justice. When most minorities know themselves, no oppressor can divide them. When they act together, no structure can suppress them. This is not a revolt of anger, but a renaissance of consciousness, a revolution of light, equality, and courage. Awaken, organize, and reclaim your destiny. When you recognize who you are, the oppressor loses his power. So what I'm trying to say to my fellow brothers who are so-called localists in India, please rise up, recognize who you are, fight every election, every constituency as an equal, not only on the reserved seats. You will gain power, you will change India, you will be governing the India rather than India governing you. This is my message. This is a prescription from the cardiologist. Thank you.
So, Dr. Grewal, that was a fascinating presentation. And one thing that struck me really quite powerfully in the facts that you brought out here is it is the many who have been controlled by the few. And again, it really struck me that this strikes a deep chord with the tactics of the British Empire. Of course, the Pune Pact was brought in 1932. That was before the British actually left India. But it's very clear the British controlled their empire, particularly the subcontinent, through this method of divide and conquer. And it's clear with the treatment of the Dalits, the lower caste, the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes, is that the Brahmins, once they essentially inherited India from the British, they continued this divide and conquer using the Pune Pact, using the constitution as their sort of framework. But once again, it comes back to this basic concept that India still remains essentially colonially controlled by the upper caste using this method of divide and conquer. Would you agree with that?
I used to think that way. Let me now explain my view now. My view has changed a little bit. We learned the British rule by divide and rule policy. But I think when they came to India, they learned these Brahmins have ruled this society for thousands of years. I think the British learned in India how to rule by dividing the society. I think it's the opposite. This is just my conclusion by reading more. The British also learned from them. I don't know if they knew before and which society they used that. But this divide and rule has been devised by the Manusmriti and has been working for thousands of years. This caste system is so strong in India overall. Even in Pakistan, it still has not gone away completely, but it can only be uprooted if the people who are subjugated, when they rise up, first they have to free their mind. They had to think themselves they're equal, not inferior. Only then equality will come and dignity will come.
So it is very much a mindset. It's a case of adopting the right mindset to overcome the system. But do you not think, just to go back to the Pune Pact again, on the face of it, the Pune Pact at that time actually seemed quite a fair offering. It was offering people who felt that they were the underclass, okay, we will guarantee you a set number of seats in the Lok Sabha. We will guarantee you at least a voice in democracy. As it turns out, ironically, now through the lens of time and the way things have evolved, it was in fact the worst decision that they made, because it now means, as you said in your presentation, that they are now locked with they can never get more than the 100 and whatever it is seats out of the 500 and something seats. So they're basically, even though they number probably more than half the population of India, they will never have more than, let's say, around 20% of the voice. But whereas you said, if they actually had a genuine democratic voice, they could potentially take control of India. Yet that has not happened. So do you think, going back to the Pune Pact, do you think those who proposed the Pune Pact, the likes of Gandhi and Ambedkar and so, do you think they knew what they were doing? Do you think they had this in mind, that they knew that this would end up being a political trap for the lower castes and the scheduled tribes and castes? Or do you think it was just by sheer luck that it's turned out well for the upper castes in today?
So I think the so-called lower class adults, I think they are victims of deception. And I don't know if Ambedkar must have known. He was a very educated, highly educated person, but he could not stand up to Gandhi. I think he was afraid his community and he will be persecuted, maybe even killed if Gandhi died. So he was not strong. The story that he wanted to be a Sikh, if he had become Sikh, he could have stood up to Gandhi, but he couldn't. So Gandhi for sure knew that this was a deception. That's what he practiced in South Africa. When in South Africa he fought for the rights of the Indian. He made 2 bathrooms to 3, 2 entries to prison doors to 3. One for the whites, one for the browns, one for the blacks. So he was not innocent. He knew everything what he was doing. He said that if we allow this to happen, this communal war, it will vivisect the Hindu society. So he masterminded and continued the deception. So we are fighting that deception, but this majority community belongs to Dalits. If you count them, with this deception, they are kept subjugated. So 131 seats, they can only win if the rest of the people vote for them. Even those 131, when they are elected, they are not truly representative of their society. They hardly do anything for themselves. They collect wealth and become themselves rich, and then their children get the same opportunity. Ordinary man doesn't. So look where we started. This police officer who committed suicide, which is sad, his wife is a granddaughter of ex-Home Minister of India. Yeah, they got some privileges, but they didn't get dignity. The Chief Justice of Indian Supreme Court, his father was a governor at 3 different states. Yes, he got the position. He rose in legal standards, but he didn't get dignity. So if they want dignity, first they have to think we are equal. Stop believing you are inferior. You are not inferior. You are children of the same God they are, but they have controlled your mind. It's the mind control which perpetuates their slavery. So what Guru Gobind Singh did, he liberated the mind. He said, you're equal, pick up the sword and fight. We in Punjab were the same people before, and they were killed and crushed by every invader. Once Guru Gobind Singh taught them, he made them warriors, they became kings. They had their own empire. Unfortunately, they lost to British, but we learned to fight, we learned to survive, we uphold our dignity high. We don't think we are inferiors. We need the same thing to be practiced by the rest of the people who are subjugated in India. So my recommendation, my suggestion, my prayer to them is, please listen. Fight election at every point, not only the reserve seat. You will win. In 1 or 2 elections, you will win a majority and you will control the government. It's up to you now to continue this subordination or have dignity.
So, Dr. Grewal, if we just go back to the time of the very first Guru Nanak Dev Ji, he actually established the Sikh faith based on this rejection of the prevailing caste system, which has obviously continued to today. And so, therefore, the Sikh faith continues to the present day, rejecting this whole concept of the caste system, which means that once Khalistan is established, Khalistan itself will, of course, remain a society based around those same principles where everybody is seen as equal. Do you therefore think that the lower caste, the scheduled tribes, castes, etc., and even the minorities in India, do you think they are fighting a battle that they cannot win in India as it stands? Do you think their only future really is the establishment of Khalistan, which will offer them, and anybody in fact, at least a home where they will be treated as equals, where they will have an equal democratic voice? In other words, reject India and move to Khalistan in simple terms.
Yes, that is the Khalistan I want. I sometimes talk to my friends and sometimes we argue. So people think the Khalistan will be Sikh Raj, or the country for the Sikhs only. That is not true. I think Khalistan will be Sikhi Raj. Sikh is a person, Sikhi is an ideology. So ideology of anti-caste equality and for humanity. So I want this Khalistan, my Khalistan, to be Sikhi Raj, not necessarily a Sikh Raj. Look, the president of India was a Sikh in 1984 and we were crushed and killed. We do not want a Sikh Raj where the person ruling is a Sikh. We want Sikhi Raj where the constitution and the whole system works on equality, no caste, on Guru Nanak's philosophy and Guru Granth Sahib's philosophy. That's my vision. It may not agree with other people's vision, but I think we want Khalistan, which is a Sikhi Raj of Sikh principles, not necessarily a Raj of a Sikh person like Badal or the Jail Singh. We want Sikhi Raj.
I think that's a very powerful distinction to make to wrap up today's discussion. Of course, a Sikhi Raj as opposed to a Sikh Raj, which will dispel any criticisms that many of our commenters do come back with, saying it will not be a Sikh theocracy, it will indeed be a Sikhi Raj, which is a very different thing. So, but there we must leave it. But we will again talk with Dr. Grewal soon to continue our discussion. But as always, Dr. Grewal, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you, Angus. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
And thank you for watching the Satluj TV podcast. We will see you next time.